just today, that announcement includes artillery ammunition for HIMARS and howitzers, more javelins, anti-armor systems, air surveillance radars to help protect Ukrainian people from aerial bombardments. Later this week, we will announce additional sanctions against elites and companies that are trying to evade sanctions and backfill Russia's war machine.
Well, that'll be interesting. A Fox News alert, President Biden committing unwavering support to Ukraine in a surprise visit with Zelensky. They met together nearly 1 year after the Russia invasion, and it all began.
Our next guest interviewed President Zelensky over the summer. Piers Morgan is a host of Piers Morgan Uncensored on Fox Nation. He joins us live here on the Curvy Couch. Good morning.
Well, great to be here.
Great to see you in
Good
person.
morning to you all. How are you?
Right.
We just had a little debate out the back, actually, whether Brian Kilmeade is the hardest working human being in the world. And whether that was a role model aspiration we should all want to be like, or complete lunacy.
All right, let's open up the phones.
Maybe both.
Is it true you only have 4 hours sleep a night?
4 hours and 20 minutes.
You know who else did that?
Who?
Margaret Thatcher.
Really?
And she went completely bonkers at the end as well.
Well, it's from 75 on. She was pretty strong up until
She was good till then.
Right.
Yeah.
And
you got, you got another 15 years?
Yeah, I've got plenty of time. Well, it depends if I'm talking to
Look,
Don Lemon.
In Don Lemon years, you're way past it already, right?
I only have 12 years. I have to maximize those 12 years.
Piers, what about the fact that the president showed up 1 year after the invasion started? You made it in before the president.
Yeah. Well, look, kudos to President Biden for going.
Absolutely.
I think it's a really important statement. Been watching the show all morning. The words I never thought I'd say. I completely agree with you, Brian Kilmeade. I think it's a really important show of strength, I think, to Vladimir Putin. Interesting that they warned the Kremlin, apparently, before they went in. It's just emerged.
I did not know that.
Which has just come out, which I think is interesting. They let them know the president was coming into Kyiv. I guess sort of saying, OK, if you do anything while we're there, you've been warned, so don't. But I think it's a show of strength. It's an important one. It's a really interesting thing with your audience, I think, because I know a lot of Republicans think, great, we should be, the West should be fighting Putin and taking him on like this and helping the Ukrainians win this war. But there are many Republicans who don't agree with that. And your debate was very interesting this morning, but I know that it sort of, I think, summarises how a lot of Republican voters feel about this. From where I sit, though, I just think you cannot let this despotic monster win. And if Putin wins, as you've been saying, Brian, he's not going to stop here. This is a guy who believes the Soviet Union should never have been broken up. He wants to restore it to what he thinks was his great imperial power. And so if he prevails in Ukraine, two things will happen. One, he will keep invading other countries to try and restore the Soviet Union. But two, China will look at this, and I think this is more significant because they're more of a danger, and they will think, well, if we go into Taiwan, actually what's going to happen? Probably not very much. And these are the two reasons why I think he's got to be defeated. And let's be honest, America, as always, if America doesn't supply the main hardware here for the Ukrainians to do this, they're not going to win. You have the great position of being the #1 superpower in the world, but that means, I'm afraid, that you carry a duty and responsibility when democracy and freedom are under this kind of attack. You have to step up in the way that I think President Biden is doing.
But the frustration and the reason why there's people like me is we hear win, all these different, buzzwords, but then there's an incoherent response of what that winning looks like, and we don't have a coherent response from this administration, no defined.
Well, I can answer it.
But
I can answer it on that point. This is what winning looks like. You kick the Russians out of all the land they've seized in the last year.
To do that? How many
it takes us. I think actually it takes air power. And I think President Zelensky, when he came to the UK a couple of weeks ago, made it very clear that it's the air power that will help him prevail. But you need to take back the land. When I was in Ukraine, I met Zelensky.
Is 20 years enough time? Like,
all I say, when
ATACMS too. They need the longer range missiles.
They need that too, but I think air power is what they desperately need right now. But here's what I say: when I went to Ukraine, and I spent time with President Zelensky and his wife, the First Lady, and a lot of local Ukrainians, the unbelievable spirit is tangible. And to a man and woman, old and young, that I spoke to on the streets of Kyiv, none of them want to concede 1 inch of land to Putin and his barbarians. When you go to places like Bucha on the outskirts of Kyiv and you see what that massacre did to those people, I met people who'd lost their children in that massacre. When you speak to them, the fire inside them to repel the Russians, and I think they're right. It's an attack not just on Ukraine, but on freedom, democracy, and a sovereign country.
I hear you, and I can't imagine how heartbreaking that is to speak with these people. I can understand why they want to defend their homeland as they should want to. It's a question of what is our involvement as the United States, or what's the UK's involvement. That's the question, and I think really what it should come down to. Is this a war we'd want our children to fight in? I mean, you're a father.
We don't have to.
You don't have to.
That's the whole point of it. The Ukrainians are fighting like warriors.
Yeah, but are we not escalating to that point?
No, we're matching.
At what point? At what point with the? Okay, but what point?
Nord Stream pipelines.
When there's
Russia, so
right,
that seems like a pretty big escalation.
I understand. I've heard all the arguments against it. I would liken it to this: when there's a bully in the school playground, and they're going around just bullying people, punching them in the face, and getting what they want, and taking anything that they want from the people in the school. Eventually, you need someone who has the guts to stand up and punch the bully in the face. The beauty of this position in terms of strategy is America doesn't have to put boots on the ground, nor do the Brits. It's a very different situation. We just have to give Zelensky the tools he needs to win.
And the bottom line is the Russians fight like it's 1910. Same strategy. This is a modern warfare. They have better tactics. The Ukrainians are better fighters. They're better equipped. They're more driven.
I thought Governor DeSantis, who's, by the way, impressive guy. I've got to say, I haven't heard him do an interview recently. He was impressive, but I thought he actually summarised it right. The Russian military is not what it used to be, and certainly isn't what Putin thinks it is.
And look at this, plenty to talk about. Tune in at 4:30 this afternoon for Piers Morgan Uncensored.
Okay, let's do a morning show.
Piers, thank you very much.
We'll keep talking.
It's great to see you. I'm glad we all reached a point of agreement.
Look out for him. He's coming on the 5 a little bit later, and he's on Uncensored, of course.
And your show.
Yeah, that's the big one.
The big one. I'm warming up with Gutfeld, the 5, and then the Kill Me stuff.
Save your A game till the weekend. Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.